Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the first novel for the fourth year course of the novel. That is Modernity and the Modern Fiction, and that is Sons and Lovers. Why Sons and Lovers? Sons and Lovers actually is the typical modern novel. When we come to the assurance and his modernity, we said I always tell my students that modernity is something new and something shocking. So the whole theme is shocking. It's all psychological. It's all based on the 20th centuries, indulgence with that psychological theories concerning, those relationships, like what kind of love, marital relationships, sisterhood, romantic, physical love, all these cultural concepts coming with theoretical, psychological theories. It's all coming together. The language also will be very modern and very different. So, Sons and Lovers is not about the mother and her sons or the image of the woman and manhood. It's all about the new perception of life. So it's just true there's a kind of semi-autobiographical work. It shows the struggles that the assurance the writer has been himself. It was published in 1913, and it's about the relationship about the mothers, the mother, the sons, the girlfriends of the sons. It's a kind of we have the Paul Morel, the protagonist, he feels something for the image of woman. There's a kind of real friendship. There's a kind of no, just physical, and a lusty friend relationships. So a kind of the book is becoming like a community for lots of kinds of relations. Of course, the beginning of the novel, it comes earlier. It comes at the very end of the 19th century, Victorian times, with the miners' very terrible status in the society and the terrible work conditions. So there is a social critique here because it aims at bettering their, the life of of the miners. We talk about how the beautiful England countryside and landscape is turning into a very terrible, with that kind of with that kind of manufacturing stuff, with that kind of industrialized society. It's a turning point in the history of England. That beautiful English cottage will be pulled out from its own roots and building a factory there. So this is actually what we have in modernity. The story talks about the Morales family, Gertrude Coppard, a kind of bourgeois woman, and she's attracted to Walter Morel, who is a miner, at Christmas times. So what we have here, the party that bringing some people from different worlds, and they got married, and they had four children: William, Arthur, Annie, Paul. So Paul was very similar to his mother. We have very few intellectual people. So Gertrude, she was the intellectual character, and Walter Morel was what kind? He's somebody who is used to the labor, and he is a bully. He is also presenting how the company, the miners company, is a bully in the society, and Walter Morel is the bully within his domestic field. So they represent whatever is ugly in that society, while Paul, like his mother, represent whatever is beautiful regarding intellectual life. So but the relationship is not a normal one. The image of woman is not normal. The relationship between a mother and her son, especially Paul, is not normal. Here we come to the basic of the Oedipus complex, and we have the basic of the psychological theories that are presenting here within this novel. So we have the social differences, we have the Oedipus complex with the Freud theories, psychological theories. We have also social and romantic bondages represented by the author himself. We have the contrast between the body and mind represented in every character, especially women's, the girlfriends, Miriam, Clara, each one of them, they represent a different. The novel can be considered a psychological novel because it is published only a few years after the ideas of Freud's and his psychological theories. And when we talk about, that theories, it's a kind of really a complex stuff because they are, reshaping our understanding of the domestic scene, marriage and domestic scenes, and childhood, and these very very important relationships in our life. So Lawrence rewrote the novel 4 times, and its title, Paul Morel, and then To Sons and Lovers, because he has all that struggle even with the title itself, not only with shaping the novel, but also starting with the title itself. The style, written using, of course, a kind of Nottinghamshire dialect, and the word niche most of the time. So the language will be a real language. When we talk about modernity, we talk about realism. And language, the Lawrence's language, representing exactly that kind of aspect of realism. The narrator herself, the narrator is omniscient narrator. The way of shaping the novel comes with the cinematic technique in the description, and it's structured episodically, and all most importantly is that kind of openness towards lust and towards the scene. We have lots of erotic scenes, and the description of sexuality is very open and it's very new. We said not only new, not new, and shockingly new. So we can make here a parallelism between Dickens and Lawrence, because Dickens in Hard Times, your description of the town, the cock town, and it's very similar to what Lawrence is doing in his description of the industrial setting. And both of them, there's a kind of social critique. So the Victorian social critique is coming into modernity with the Lawrence social critique, with the coal fields, in the first chapter, with description of the cities, with the description of the domestic scene. And that kind of social critique is actually very modern here, because with modern language and with the reality, with many details about those complex relationships between the mother and the sons and their girlfriends. And at the end of the novel, there is one hope, and that hope is the intellectualism. And this is why Paul is very much like his mother, a very intellectual person, because only with knowledge, only with science, we can have a good future. The prosperous lights of the city at the last lines, representing the last lines of the novel, showing us that kind of hope. A gloomy novel, a kind of sad relationships, a kind of, that kind of death, which is physical as well as spiritual. But at the end of the novel, we have a hopeful note. Most of the themes about nature and the flowers, which is also a very beautiful thing about the novel, a kind of description of the natural environment, which is so, it is it shows us the loss of nature when we are living into that industrialized society. Also, there's a pathetic fallacy. It means the description of eroticized characters very much indicated with kind of floral symbolism. Here is shocking in D.H. Lawrence's novel. I mean, we also, the characters experience, we with the characters experience those moments of transcendence, those moments when they are alone in nature, and we read about them alone in nature, we see them alone in nature. There's a kind of awareness. So flowers are used throughout the novel to symbolize these deep connections, not only with nature, but also with the humans, with fellow humans. And flowers, sometimes they are agents of divisions, like Paul and Miriam, and sometimes, and the daffodils, for example, sometimes they are agents of a reunion, and that kind of love, like between Paul and his mother. And when we read the novel line by line, you will see these images shaping the world of the novel. The bondage also showing romantic as well as, you know, as well as, I mean, different kinds of bondages here. The mother also represents the whole world, represent else, a kind of, you know, kind of awareness about the natural world, at the same time about the world we live in, that kind of working class. For example, Mrs. Morel, she thinks herself being buried alive. I mean, because of belonging to that kind of working class and the miners, you know, miners company. I mean, being exploited by the miner company, being exploited by the industrialized society. It's showing that kind of frustration throughout the novel. So also we have treatment of jealousy, which is coming like the bondage becoming like a kind of obsession for those, for the mother and for those sons. And thank you very much for this. I look forward for more lectures.